From the studio that has won no awards whatsoever comes the podcast that should have already been canceled. Welcome to another episode of Have You Read This? A podcast for bookworms, lovers of sarcasm, and those dangerously close to overdosing on caffeine. Load up on ibuprofen, because here comes 15 minutes of your life you'll never be able to get back.
One of the perks of being old and broken and at such an advanced stage of life like I am is I think it kind of gives me a pass on being grumpy. I think once you get old, I think there's certain people out there that they just kind of expect you to be irritable and annoyed, or I don't know, maybe that's just my entire personality. But more and more of reading online, I'm talking about social media, the more I find myself irritated. For example, was reading through X the other day, and I saw a post by Goodreads about the new edition of a DNF shelf. Specifically, here's what their post said. It said, "One of your most requested features is arriving now. A default did not finish shelf. You can officially shelve books you started and didn't finish, track your progress, and customize whether they count toward your reading challenge." And I gotta admit, there's something that I must be missing here. I seriously don't believe this is one of the most requested features. You can already create your own shelves and add books to it. Why does Goodreads need to add that? My guess is that enough people requested this, but it was easier to implement instead of the features that people really, really wanted. And I get adding a DNF shelf. Personally, it's rare for me to DNF a book. And if I did, I think I would just remove it from my TBR entirely. Like, imagine this. Imagine you're an author. You've worked tirelessly on this book. You've mailed it to people. You finally got the thing published. And then some whack job 5 states over, that's the first thing that they do is put it on their DNF list. What I cannot wrap my head around is this ability to customize whether a DNF would count toward your reading challenge. I just need someone that's smarter than me to explain that. Like, how in the world does not finishing something count towards finishing something? Of all the things we could have been given by Goodreads, I think this has to be last on the list. They could have built, I don't know, a stronger infrastructure, or upgraded their servers so that maybe the website would load every time you went to it or not time out, or maybe move the website out of the year 2003. They could have upgraded the user interface to something way more modern or aesthetically pleasing. What about 5-star ratings? We got none of that. Instead, we get a feature that's like questionable at best. And before anyone comes at me saying that they actually count DNFs toward their reading goals, would you sign up for a 5K and then stop running 1 mile in, but you count the other 2 you didn't run towards the 5K? To me, this would be like having a marathon medal hanging up on your wall, but telling people you ran 5 miles, but the other 21.1 you had to DNF, but you still counted it towards your marathon. And I get it. You want credit for reading 23 pages out of 800. Just get another freaking book. Like, it's really not that serious. Anyway, whatever. I'm not using that stupid feature. Anyway, I guess on a more positive note, one of my gifts for Christmas was a shopping spree at Barnes. And I shared this video on my TikTok and Instagram accounts, and pleased to say that, like, they really blew up. They went viral, like, just out of the world. I think I got 100 views. Nothing I've posted has gone viral. Calm down. I'm too old for that crap. Anyway, one of the books I grabbed on my shopping spree was Theo of Golden. And I knew very little about it. And the very little I had seen really was online. And it was like the people that would just kind of throw up the cover of the book and like, oh my gosh, this book is the best thing ever. And normally when people just gibber about how much they love a book, I kind of glance over it. And mainly because I never once got a reason why they loved it. It's just that, oh my gosh, this book was so great. First, I want to say like what the book is about, obviously minus spoilers. I don't do that here. The synopsis reads in part, one spring morning, a stranger arrives in the small southern city of Golden. No one knows where he has come from or why. His name is Theo, and he asks a lot more questions than he answers. Theo finds his way into a coffee shop, and he discovers that the walls are covered with these portraits. All of these portraits are done by a local artist, and they're just these most amazing things that he has ever seen. And he also learns that all of these portraits are people that actually live in Golden. The synopsis will go on to say that this is a story of giving and receiving, of seeing and being seen. Theo of Golden is a beautifully crafted novel about the power of creative generosity, the importance of wonder to a purposeful life, and the invisible threads of kindness that bind us to one another. And that sounds cool and all right? I mean, that sounds like a book I think that would be, a lot of people would want to read, regardless of what genre you prefer. I saw this pop up on TikTok and Instagram, and I think at one point it was like hard for me to even avoid seeing it. I was like, I get it. This book is good, whatever. But as I said earlier, there was never really anything about why the book was so good. Just that, oh my gosh, you don't have to read this. You really like that voice, don't you? I think I should start using that more in the podcast because I've been working on a way to actually lower the following count. I'm pretty sure that would do it. So anyway, fast forward to me reading a post on Facebook from a friend of mine that basically said the same thing, like, you have to read this. At that point, I was like, okay, kind of near the end of what I was reading. So I bumped Theo of Golden up to the top of my list, and I vowed to myself that if it sucked, I was going to publicly roast that friend, and I would ensure that she would never recommend books ever again. Not in my town. Not in my town. But I want to get this out of the way first. I need to say, yes, this was a 5-star read for me. I'm not going to go like, oh my gosh, this was the best thing ever, and then like, ditch you. I loved it. I found that the flow of the book made it difficult to put down. It was one of those that like, this could have been 700 pages and I would have never cared at all. Probably would have wanted more from it. So the premise of a stranger buying portraits and giving them away gave me hope of some great character development and unique storytelling. So in that aspect, I was not let down. We're introduced to a wide array of characters, all of which feel entirely believable and not made up. And I don't know how, if you're like me when you read stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, how many freaking characters are you going to throw at me at once? My brain is so small that you throw more than 2 or 3 at me at the beginning of the book, and sometimes I feel lost. This one just felt different. I don't know how to explain it other than he did so well writing these characters that you honestly feel like you're moving into this town and you're getting to meet them in a way that you can remember them. And it didn't feel like an author just throwing a ton of characters at you all at once that you're never going to remember. None of the backstories felt forced. Like I said, I could easily imagine myself being in the town of Golden, standing in front of this fountain, which was where Theo gives the portraits. He meets up and gives these portraits to the strangers. The fountain was also where Theo learned so much about all of those in the town. And Golden, I think, was truly explored in the novel. Another thing that I just loved. And by that, I mean, you get to see more than just like 1 or 2 places. Like you could kind of get a vibe for the people in the town. And I just really loved that because one of the few times that an author has taken me out of my living room and placed me directly into the story where I felt like I was witnessing it rather than reading it from afar. The storytelling, superb, highly intriguing. And I also felt that the book didn't stay in a single place for too long where I got bored. For example, I think there was a point where Theo was meeting up with another person from the town to deliver this portrait. And I started to think, okay, this is verging a little bit on being repetitive. And it's not that I didn't enjoy that part of the book, because I did. It's just in the back of my mind, I was starting to question, okay, well, what is the outcome? Like, is this whole thing just going to be where he meets people and that's it. And then he like moves away, or like, where is this leading? And what was great was the book shifted enough at that moment to continue to hold my interest and then push the story along. So it stayed where it need to, but it didn't linger, if that makes any sense. And I'm not going to get into any spoilers here, but I will say how the story unfolds and how all of these characters are brought together in the end. I just, I'd love to give this dude a round of applause. This was one of the best ways, I think, to wrap up this story. And there's been so many times where I read a book and I'm cussing at the author, like, how did you decide to end it like this? And before I ever get online and complain about that, I like to think about, okay, how would I have done it? Could I have done it better? I just don't know of a better way to have finished this story. And there's no better way to have told it either. So if you would have said, okay, this book is only about the portraits and meeting people, I think I still would have loved it. That alone would have made just a great book. But the back end of the book brought it home for me in like this amazing, also sad, but fantastic, and some happy, hopeful. It just combines like all of these emotions and just hits you with everything all at once. And look, I know how that sounds. Since I'm the expert and you're not, you're just going to have to trust me on this. This was one of the very few books also that I have to admit got me emotional. Flowers for Algernon was one. The Last Letter. I'll just add this one to the list. It's just beautiful storytelling, and I really don't know how else to put it. Shifting directions just a little bit. I've got another episode on deck that I want to talk about next, and it's a piece of dystopian fiction. I love end of the world, dystopian, zombie kind of stuff. This one I feel like stands out from others because of how unique it is. I mean, we've all seen the end of the world and we've all read books about zombies, and this one has nothing to do with zombies, but supposedly about the end of the world. We don't really know. And I think that's one of the things that I loved about it, but I don't ever see this one being talked about. So I want to do like a whole episode on that and see if I can dive in a little deeper as much as my shallow brain will allow me. And it was, I think the thing that stood out was it's one of those books where you finish it and you kind of have to sit back and process it. And I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, was that really was that a great book? Did I actually like that one? Or, how did it, was the ending, is that really the way that it should have gone? No. Yeah. I think I liked that one a lot. Was it 5 stars? Was it 4? Was it 3? These are all the things that just kind of run through my mind. And, I could have given it a half-star rating, but Goodreads apparently is working on a DNF shelf instead of a more usable feature. And if you made it this far, go follow me on the Twitter. Look for HYRT Pod. A while back, I made a stand and I said I would never be on that platform after they allowed Alex Jones back. You can dig up a previous episode of mine where there's a book that I read about Sandy Hook and specifically Alex Jones. And I never ever want to be anywhere in the vicinity of a person like that. But then I started thinking about how I'll be talking about books and literature and learning and educating and growing. And it made me realize that I don't ever have to worry about running into Alex Jones because, I'm not going to be reviewing children's coloring books or pop-up books. So you know what? Our paths are never going to cross. So I will be on the Twitter and you got to come find me. Well, we're done here. And if you like the show, tell a friend. If you hated it, tell an enemy, because spite listens count towards my goals too. But what doesn't count is people that haven't listened to it. Maybe I should start doing that when people ask me like, how many listeners you got? And I could say, well, a lot of people thought about doing it, but they DNF my show. But you know what? I'm still going to count 1 million of them. That's a feature that everybody's been requesting. Anyway, if you actually enjoyed this episode, please go see a professional or at least leave a review. so I can feel something other than mild disdain. If I had sponsors, this would be where I would tell you about them. And since I don't, visit haveyoureadthispodcast.com, click on the shop, and buy tons of crap you don't need. Until next time.